So I'm excited about this next guest. I can't wait because Jen Friel is like the chief marketing officer for Drop In Inc., but that's not anything compared to some of the stuff this girl's done. She's amazing. At the age of 8, Seth, 8 years old, she founded her first computer company teaching adults how to use WordPerfect, Juno, and Prodigy. Her amazing website, Talk Nerdy to Me, Lover. She documents crashing in 2010, the Grammys, dancing on stage with Prince, accidentally going out on 103 dates in 9 months, bartering social media to live for a year, going around to 12 states with $10 to her name. Friel's blog, which is Talk Nerdy to Me, Lover, previously has been optioned twice by Jerry Bruckheimer, Top Gun, Flashdance, that Jerry Bruckheimer.
Wow.
And purchased the CBS she was in a purchasing, like a bidding war between CBS, ABC, NBC, and Fox for the rights to her story. She is just kick-ass. I'm not even kidding you. It's with absolute and great pleasure and super curious. I'm like so curious about this woman that we welcome to our show, Jen Friel. Hey, Jen.
Hey there. How are you?
Great. Again, like I said in your intro, I'm everybody's like, wow, you've had a crazy life. I read through your stuff. You're like in your early 30s and you're kicking my ass. Okay.
I don't know about that, but so far so good.
I mean, it's amazing what you've done. And thank you. Oh, by the way, thank you so much for being our guest.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So I have to say, everything about you is insanely unique, which popped a million questions into my head because I love to dig the dirt on people. And when I say dig the dirt, I mean the real deal. I don't look for what bad relationship you had and how many people you've slept with and what you drink at night. I don't care. I want to know what goes on in your head, what makes you tick, what makes you unique, and what people really do identify with. People really identify with people who are themselves and are willing to speak about it. So before we dive deep into your crazy, insane adventures, I have to ask, just for everyone who doesn't know your background, Jen, where'd you come from?
I was born in technically Bristol, Connecticut, but I grew up in West Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay. And so you grew up in a techie family, or you just had that?
Yeah. I had access to tech. So I started typing when I was 2. My mom works for insurance companies. She's technically an entrepreneur, but she's been in business for herself her entire life because that's how my parents had my brother and I really young. So my mom was actually able to put my father through law school by working from home. So she always needed a computer. And so my father, being a natural geek, loves technology. And so I always had access to a computer and tech way before my friends did. So like I said, started typing when I was 2. And then by 8, I had my first little computer company called Computers Anonymous, where I would teach adults basic word processing skills like WordPerfect, Juno, basically how to write an email and how to write a resume, because that's pretty much as far as people got back then.
That blew my mind by 8. I'm thinking to myself, my grandkids sitting with me, teaching me. And by the way, they've taught me a lot. Okay. They've taught me a lot. Just so you know. But I think that's so incredibly cool. So let's talk about this amazing space that you found yourself in. You found yourself in this space, and you owned it, by the way, just so you know. I mean, I'm sure you do know, but so everyone else knows, you owned your own space in the tech world, a world that was totally back then and still somewhat is driven by men, with Talk Nerdy to Me, Lover. I love it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been quite the journey. I think I'm actually kind of glad that it's been a man's world, because I think I was perceived in a much more unassuming capacity. So I was actually able to, I feel like, get further because, 1, I was a chick. So, 9 times out of 10, they'd invite you to something just to have girls there. And 2, I've always just known kind of what I was doing. And even if I didn't exactly know what I was doing, I considered what I was doing play. So it was just all really fun to me. So even if I quote unquote failed, it wasn't really a failure. I just kind of kept going and knew not to do that way again. But didn't really judge myself for it.
That's so insanely crazy, because one of the things I really loved about you and one of the reasons I want to interview you is because I watched your TEDx talk. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
And I thought that was just incredible because you did something I would do. First of all, whenever we talk and you speak and I speak, it's always like you kind of write down these canned things you want to say and you kind of put it together and you process it through your head. And then the night before you did exactly what I've done a million times. You ditched it all, right?
Yeah, it was so crazy. So we did the tech rehearsal. So one, I mean, they prepare you about a year in advance. So I had to go through like a whole series of stages of submitting my talk and getting it approved and kind of this, that, and the other thing. They guide you through it and coach you through it. And then, but I kept changing it because I was like, because, as you go throughout that year, I'm constantly changing. So what I think on something one day might not feel the same way, 6 months down the road. And above anything else, I have to be as honest as possible at all times. I just physically can't do it otherwise. And so I did the tech rehearsal and I was so nervous. I was like visibly shaking. And then I was like, well, why am I so nervous to say this talk? I was like, oh, it's because I'm speaking from my own ego. And I was the opening act at I think it was 8 a.m., which I'm also not a morning person. So yes, I was the opening act for the whole thing. And so I show up at 6 o'clock in the morning and knowing that I had just thrown my talk out and I handed the organizer my slides and he's like, you did not just do this. He's like, you changed your talk. And I was like, yes. But the best part is the last bit of it had some audience participation from the actor Will Forte. And so I was really, really lucky that he happened to be up at that hour and actually answered my tweet because I could never have planned that in a million years. Will and I have remained buddies on Twitter and he's just an awesome human being. So it was just all these great things that just started to click in place, all because I just didn't speak from my ego. I just spoke from my heart, which is what I know how to do.
And you know what, Jen, watching it, I totally was immersed in it because, you're talking about you failed. I mean, come on. Everybody gets to have their unicorn moment and, oh my God, girl, you did it. Oh, wow. Good for you. It was so easy. Ice cream and lollipops. No.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Nothing's ever easy.
And you talk about that. And I liked that. I liked the fact that you were like, okay, down and dirty. Sometimes it sucked.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I literally gave up everything that I owned and bartered for a year. I mean, it's been basically just shy. I've had the website. It'll be 10 years in November. So, I mean, I have been hustling this entire time and, working and it's kind of interesting. In the beginning, I had to prove myself a lot. And I think I was more proving myself to myself. But now I'm at a completely different stage in my career where it's like, well, what's my next challenge? Am I still pushing myself? What am I kind of doing now? So I don't have to prove myself as much anymore, which is kind of awesome. But now it's just kind of like, again, how am I need for myself to be on some sort of cutting edge. I want to feel like I'm doing something different and out there, but to my own self, not for other people. So I constantly live to stay on that sort of edge. So that's kind of always what I'm looking for. And I feel like that keeps my brain pretty sharp, but we'll see.
I love that because you know what? I'm all about that. I'm all about, well, I've started writing over the past year, and again, every level of your life demands different you. So you change it up and switch it up and go around and around and around. But I started working on my talk and B, my book. And they're like, oh, the book's going to be One Tough Mother, becoming One Tough Mother. I think my talk and my book are going to be, I drive a yellow car. Because, Jen, I look in the parking lots of everywhere I go and it's white, black, and gray. I commute back and forth to New York. It's white, black, and gray. I have a yellow car. Okay. So
that's interesting.
I know. I now that you heard that, you're going to go out and look and go, holy shit, she's right. Every time I see it, black, white, and gray. And it bothers the crap out of me that everybody has to be anonymous. Everybody has to be white, black, or gray. And people have actually said to me, wow, that car is very odd. That's like school bus yellow. Yes, it is. And I drive a yellow car. And I want to stand out. And that's how I feel about you. You drive a yellow car. I mean, you're out there just talking your truth and being honest, win or fail, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I've owned everything that I've ever done on Talk Nerdy. I mean, it wasn't just the good dates, that I went on. It was, times that I've been the most humiliated I've ever been in my life. I went for that story and wrote about it because it was cathartic for me because once I wrote it out, I get to relive it. And so then I get to release it. So it was kind of like a really great way to experience therapy. And I've kept journals. Actually, I'm so excited. I found last week one of my very first diary entries. So I kept hundreds of diaries everywhere I went. And it's so beautiful. I would take brochures of where I went. I would put them in photo albums. And I had these like little teeny tiny pieces of paper that I would jot down everything that I did, what time we left, where we went. And it's like, in the one that I just found, it's like, enjoyed the show, smiley face. You know, I was 9 years old when I had that. I had hundreds of them. And unfortunately, I lost everything I owned in a cockroach infestation in 2007. So I don't have anything that predates my life really until then. And so when I found this at my parents' house, I started to cry because I was like, this was me at 9 years old. I don't have any of these anymore. And it was just so cool to see that same person still kind of existing now. I was literally blogging before there was a term for it.
That is the coolest thing. So as the pro that you are, you segued me into my next question. Let's talk dating, babe. Let's talk dating. 103 dates in 9 months. Babe, I haven't had a date in 6 months, okay? What the hell am I doing wrong?
Tinder, well, one, I do this as pro bono work. So if you want me to take a look at your Tinder profile or any of your online dating profiles, I'm super happy to do it. I'm serious. I think that's the number one common mistake people make is one, not being on online dating, because I just don't think things just naturally happen to you. I'm just someone that goes out and gets things. So putting myself out there has always been easy. But you know, even if you're a little, you know, you have trepidation or anything like that, like I'm always super happy to help. So people can reach me, you know, all through social media. But yeah, I would love to look at some of your dating profile pictures because, and even what you write, because 9 times out of 10, people just aren't marketing themselves accordingly. And sometimes you need that outsider perspective to help you.
You know what? Here's what Seth is going to love you to death because I am not on any online dating. And Seth,
oh yeah,
my kids, Seth, they're like, Ma, what do you, something that he's going to fall out of the sky?
Exactly.
Like, what do you think? And I'm like, I don't know. It seems like too much. There's like too much energy for me. It's just too fake. It's too not real. How did you do it?
Well, that's the point. So, I mean, when I did this, I did the 103 dates back in, and I think it was 2011, 2010. And so I did that using OkCupid. So I had a pattern of dating douches. So OkCupid actually matches you. It's a little different now, but they matched you based upon a compatibility algorithm. So I was like, okay, great. So I created in my head this hypothesis where I was like, I'd go out with someone on a date with 85% or more compatibility. And I had a disclaimer on my page saying, you know, I'm a life caster, so this is what I'm doing with my life. So if you don't want to be a part of it, you know, please, you know, don't message, but this is what I'm doing. And because I was couch surfing at the time, I didn't want to be, there was this chick that was on Match.com who had like 30 grand worth of dinners in 1 month. And I just thought she seemed like such a douchebag. So I was like, I'm not going to be her. So I didn't tell guys exactly what I was doing, but I was like, if you buy me a beer, I'll give you a hug. And so I had that compatibility prerequisite set, and then it was 103 dates. There were 11 second dates. There were 6 guys I slept with. There were 4 that I wanted more from. And then in that, more from meaning a relationship. And then of those 4, all 4 were emotionally unavailable. So it taught me that I was the douchebag. And then I started working with a shaman, and he really kind of helped me open up in really spectacular ways. But it just led me down this weird rabbit hole with online dating where, like, you know, sometimes you don't, you know, necessarily find Mr. Right, but you do find a lot of really great people, you know. And I think if you go into online dating with an open heart and an open mind, that's exactly what you're going to find.
I love that because you know what, you're so right, because I have really just like spent some time like really going through my own soul and really like dishing, because I've had the absolute honor of interviewing some of the top women in the world, if not the country. I mean, the country, if not the world. And I have absolutely learned from every single person I have ever interviewed. Every single person. And so I just kind of, in the last 6 months, have been kind of like flushing through my own soul, like running some water through and then, you know, seeing what's left and finding out what's happening. And I have so totally determined that I'm a fixer. Like, I'm always dating someone because I've been a mother my whole life. I don't know if you know my background, but my whole life I've been someone's mother. So from a little kid, I was taking care of my brother and sister on through my life. And I always am a fixer. Like, I'm always trying to, I find that soul that's like drop dead gorgeous or really handsome, very charismatic, very charming, but he's broken. And guess what? I'm fixing him.
Well, that's also too, like, that was one of my biggest issues as well, is I'm also a fixer. So that's like inherently just kind of how I am. But then what I realized with trying to fix people, and that's what I would set up in dating, was that it was actually an avoidance of my own intimacy. It was something that I wasn't actually, because when you're fixing someone, you're not paying attention to yourself. You're not really loving yourself. You're not being intimate with yourself because you're so focused on this other person and this other individual. So for me, like, being able to relate to that, I just kind of had to take a couple steps back. And that's when, I was living on an island at the time, actually. And I just took up a series of different activities that were so outside of the box for me. And I got to know who I was as a person and not just this persona, and really got real with myself. And it changed everything for me. It changed my relationships. It changed in every capacity too, not just romantic relationships with my family, relationships with friends. But I had to kind of sit and deal with that myself. And I think that for me, that was the total game changer.
Do you reach back, Jen? Do you hold back now your opinion, or trying to fix a situation? Say your brother calls you, or your mother, or anyone of your friends calling you, say, and they're complaining, and they don't always want your opinion. They just sometimes want to vent. And that's my problem. I'm always the one that's trying to fix it. So I'm always like, oh, here, let me do it. Do you hold back?
Well, no, well, yes and no. I've learned to ask the question, would you like unsolicited advice? So I first preface it by saying that. And then also too, if it's too many times, let's say they're complaining about this duck that crosses the street. Every day you hear this complaint about this duck crossing the street, and you'll get eventually fed up with it. So then you just have to set a boundary of like, you know what? I understand today's the day that the duck crossed the street yet again, but you know what? I don't want to hear about a duck today. And then it's shocking because once you set that boundary, they actually move on. They find someone else to complain about the duck to, but at least it's not you.
Right. I get it. That's a good point, actually, because I go on choices. And then in the last 6 months, I spent a lot of time, and believe me when I say I'm a bit older than you are, but having my kids so young, like I was raised around, she had to do that. She didn't have a choice. And she had to go to work. She didn't have a choice. And I've finally taken it back through all the interviews, all the people, all the things I've heard people in their life lessons are. And guess what, dude? We all have a choice. There's always
exactly. Oh, yeah, but every day is a choice. Every day is and that's what I think people is kind of a common mistake, is we get to be victims of our own circumstances by whatever means that means. It could mean that, legitimately a lot of things have happened to you, let's say in the last 6 months, and this, that, and the other thing, but you can choose. Do you focus on the fact that the sun rose today, or do you focus on the fact that the sun set? And it's not easy to do, but it's like throwing a pity party, like, didn't get me anywhere in life. It was when I started to hold myself accountable for my actions and for my thought pattern. That's what really changed so many things in my life, was when, that's how Talk Nerdy actually started. Was it started from a really depressive state. And I was like, because I actually had a nervous breakdown when I was 22. And then by 25, I was like, I just need to figure myself out. And so I literally did everything that was the opposite of what I thought. It was completely illogical to move into a car and give everything up that I owned. Yeah. But I did it, and it just brought me to such a different place and different way of thinking. And I own all of that, and those were my choices, and it led me to this really cool place. But I mean, it's terrifying in the process. No one actually wants to do it or go through with it. It's always scary, but you just find whatever that it is, and you just keep doing it.
I think that's amazing. I'm so happy that you said that, because I'm a firm believer that what doesn't kill you, or what doesn't break you, will kill you. I mean, I'm just like totally. I mean, you have to stick. You have to stick it out. You have to try. And it's your responsibility. It's
Absolutely.
Your responsibility. And you've got to take control. You've got to take a hold of the reins, because I'm so tired of hearing, well, he wasn't raised by the best family. Oh, he didn't have the best mother or father. Or, oh, well, he did that because he had to do it. Or they went to work. Oh, that's the way she was raised. Well, geez, I'm sorry. Or she didn't get that job because, no. Everybody had a choice. Everybody has a choice. Whether the choice is easy or not, that's a different situation. But you do have a choice. And when you start recognizing that, like, I call myself out on things. I'll be like, oh, damn, I didn't have a choice. And then I'll be like, oh, yeah, seriously. I had the choice. I made the wrong choice. Get over it and move forward, right?
Yeah, but I think that's the point, is like, even when you've made the wrong choice, you've at least recognized wrong, I put in quotes, but like even when you've made quote unquote a wrong choice, it's like it's not really a wrong choice because you recognize, one, that you're in control, that you made a choice, and two, now you at least know not to do it again. You know, it's like move on instead of being hard on yourself, which I feel like a lot of us do, and particularly if you're in that negative mindset, it's like this tape that's constantly playing in your head. But I feel like if you just can get over that stage and actually love yourself, of when you're admitting any sort of failure, experiencing any sort of failure, that's when self-care needs to come in full force and just be as loving to yourself as possible. Accept what you did, but then move on. And I think so many people end up in the dwelling stage, and then it becomes this, again, victim mentality of, oh, woe is me. And that's really difficult to be around.
Yeah, especially like you were young, you were 22. I mean, how bad, and people think this when they're, how bad could your life be at 22? It's as bad as you make it in your head, actually, right?
Absolutely. It was just a lot. It was, I'm actually introverted. Not a lot of people understand that because I'm technically an ambivert because I've extroverted, you know, like I'm capable of speaking and being in a room, but I just don't get energized by other people. So I need a lot of my alone time. And it just became one thing after another with growing up and all these other things that were just kind of didn't belong to me that I made my responsibility, and I took it very personally, and that just leads you down a really dark path. But it was kind of freeing because I still remember that day. I put myself on a 5150. I cried without shoes on, walked into a drug rehab center, and they thought I was on drugs, but I wasn't. I was just having like this psychotic break. And I remember they took my shoelaces at check-in. I thought that was very strange. I was like, what am I going to do with my shoelaces? But I remember putting on the little hospital slippers, and they gave me an Ativan, and I went to bed. And I just remember thinking, I was like, this is it. Like, you are officially crazy. Like, I cannot leave this ward right now. I physically cannot. Those doors are locked. Like, wow, this is it. And then it was like the sheer panic of like, how do I get out of here?
That would be me. Oh my God, how do I get out? Right.
Yeah, but you have to stay as calm as possible. Fortunately, in that situation, the Ativan helped. That knocked me out immediately. But it was in that situation I was like, all right, well, acting irrationally at all is going to work in the exact opposite way that you want it to. And so I just stayed as calm as possible. And I actually talked my way out of my 5150. I was only in there for 48 hours, which was, it's only the second time the doctor ever did it. But he told me, he warned me, he's like, you're super smart and you're super creative. He goes, if you don't figure this out for yourself, he goes, you're going to end up crashing into a wall. So I took his advice and I figured it out for myself.
Wow, what a great doctor.
Right? Yeah.
Right? And now, so fast forward, we've got this world that's all text me. Hey, text me, drop me an email. Hey, text me. How do we get past that? Because I think a lot of what you're saying and a lot of what I think and a lot of things that are going on in this world and other people I've interviewed is we've lost that personal contact with people. What do you do to keep that?
Yeah, I think that's where you make your relationships a priority. I hang out with my friends a lot. I'm super fortunate that I now have really close friends that we see each other like just about every other day, or at least a couple times a week. So I think that's super important, identifying who your close relationships are and then nurturing those relationships. And also too, I'm considering doing this myself. I have my phone on Do Not Disturb at night, but I'm even going to start doing it during the day because it's like Pavlov and the dog. You know, I hear a ding and I'm like, ooh, let me go over here. I'm like, that just broke my concentration. That just broke, you know, the attention that I was giving to something else. For a text message that's like, hey, want to come have pizza, or something like mundane, you know, it's nothing life-changing. And I love what Apple's doing now with the testing your screen time to see exactly how long you're on the phone, because now we're able to kind of hold ourselves accountable for our own screen time. And so like what that actually looks like, so you can then judge for yourself if this is something acceptable or if you need to make changes. But I'm right there with you. And that's where I think I go back to my island life of, you know, just turning off your phone and actually hanging out with your friends. Like anytime I'm with my friends, you will rarely, if ever, see me touch a phone unless it's like ringing.
Right. I totally agree. And, you know, at first it's very scary because I'm in a new office, and the new office has not yet really gotten great Wi-Fi because of the steel. There's a whole bunch of things that and or see the steel in the ceiling, blah, 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 blah. So I panicked at first, like, oh my gosh, if something happens to my mother or my kids, they won't be able to get can't get a hold of me. And I'm like, because I'm not getting service back here. And I'm like, really, like, I was a little bit panicky by it. Then I thought, wait, there's a phone here. They could call this phone number and call me. And like, all of a sudden it hit me. I don't need to know that we have no milk to stop home when I'm in the middle of something I'm concentrating on, and then I'm like, wow, well, okay. So lunch, I'll check. After dinner, after work, of course, I check. And maybe once in a great while, I'll check if I'm running across the street and I take the phone with me. But it's really been pretty freeing, actually.
Yeah, I had that same experience last year with Burning Man. I was terrified about going because I'm a natural workaholic, and I hadn't even taken a vacation, like a true vacation, in at least 4 years up until Burning Man. And it was really hard setting that like email notification that I will be absolutely as off the grid as humanly possible. So for a week, I was not able to, get cell service, read a text message, see an email. I was completely off the grid. And it actually didn't take me very long. I was pretty excited once I got over the fact that this was happening, and I couldn't talk my way out of it now. Once I kind of got over that sheer panic, like you were describing as well, then you kind of recognize, I was like, I'm doing this for me, and this is part of my self-care, and I'm worthy, and this is what I'm doing with my life. It's setting, again, those like healthy boundaries of what is your time and what is other people's times, and then not allowing anybody to come in between that.
That is so girlfriend, your head is so full, and I hate to say this, but you got a big head. Now your head is so full of knowledge. Like, so much, you've garnered and you've gathered and you've processed so much important, valuable information. How do we flip the switch on social media? How do we flip the switch for the good for these younger kids coming up and everybody that thinks they have to be on Instagram posting their best shot? And I took 33 shots to get this great picture. Like, how do we do that? How do we do that?
Well, that's actually what my friend, that's literally what I'm working on right now with my friend Brian Solis. He has a book out called Life Scale. And it literally is like he provides like a tutorial and step-by-step actions on how to disconnect. And I can't say I have the answers either. But I've been friends with Brian for like 10 years. And so he's just a machine in terms of his research and studying. And then he caught himself and was like, wait, what am I actually doing? So in terms of that, I technically don't have the answers, but I'm literally living it right now on Talk Nerdy. So I'm super excited to sort of explore what all of this means. And again, I think it's just much like with anything, it just comes down to our own personal accountability. It comes down to, our own actions. I mean, again, like you were saying, in terms of the recording studio and in terms of your cell phone usage, like you have a choice. If people really need to get a hold of you, they can get a hold of you on the phone. But like these programs and whatnot and social media platforms were designed and created to hold our attention. They were designed and created to be like slot machines in Vegas in terms of how dopamine responds in our brain. So this was all by choice. And now that's their decision. And it was our choice to use it. But now what are we going to do about it? Like we can also say, oh, well, they made us this way. They made us. It's like, no, well, then delete Facebook from your phone like I have. Right. I check Instagram maybe once or twice a day, if that. So like, you have your own accountability within this, and that's what I think people just need to hold themselves to. But I think, again, we're in a world where everybody wants to blame someone else for something, and it's really on them.
You're so right. And it's so funny because one of my girlfriend's daughters recently said, we were sitting there and we were having a glass of wine, and she came down, and the girl's like 19, 20. And her mom's like, are you going out with your friends tonight? She goes, I have no friends. I have no friends. She goes, I was just on Instagram. I'm going through a bunch of stuff, and they're all out doing stuff on Instagram, and I really have no friends. And I said to her, dude, maybe if you didn't spend your whole life on Instagram, maybe, maybe you should get out there and make some friends. Because at 19 or 20, I was living the life, my friend. And I'm telling you right now, it blew my mind that she's intelligent. She's a lovely person. And it's like, I have no friends. And I'm like, what? Are you out of your mind? I hear so many kids say that. It makes me sick. Makes my stomach turn. And they're 10 and 11 years old. I've had 10 and 11-year-olds write me and say, I have no friends. I want to commit suicide. I looked at this. I look at that. And they live their life by what their friends are doing on social media.
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly relate to that. That's what, was one of the reasons that led me to my nervous breakdown at 22, is always feeling like an outsider. And we didn't have social media when I was a kid, but we had AOL local chat rooms, which is where I actually met the majority of my initial friends in LA, which was kind of weird. It was like kind of normal back then if you were on these like chats enough that you would actually meet up with someone, what they call IRL. But I think, again, people are going to figure it out. I think it's to a certain degree a little bit more difficult for kids now because it's been around for so long that they kind of don't know anything different. So their like, peer-to-peer social skills might be a bit, stunted, so to speak. But then that's great. Like now they have something that they can focus on and something they can better themselves with. You know what I mean? Now they have something that they have a goal that they can execute.
Right. I'm going to use the hashtag IRL. I forgot that in real life.
Oh yeah, IRL, yeah.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Anyway, so Jen, I adore what you do, and I think you're good. Tell Brian if he wants to talk. I'd be happy to.
Oh, I love it.
What it's like to cut off when you're this age. I'll be his case study, but let me know, give us your life lesson thus far.
Yeah, I think my life lesson thus far is to just be. I don't even know, and that's so corny, but you ask me that sentence even by the end of the day, and I'm sure it will probably change. So it's like I'm such always a forward thinker and what's next, what's happening. And now at this stage in my life, I'm like, well, this is happening right now. I'm sitting in this chair. I have my laptop open. I'm having this amazing conversation. I have a little cup of apple cider right next to me. I'm feeling pretty proud of that. And that's just it. It's like not everything is this grand adventure or over the top story. Sometimes the best ones are where you're just enjoying your conversation and your time with another person or yourself.
To live in the moment, right?
Yeah, but actually do that, not have an Instagram meme saying that you're living in the moment.
Right. I agree. Oh my gosh. It's been an amazing interview. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Tell everybody where they can find you. Remind everybody where you're at.
Yeah, hey, I'm at Jen Friel on most social platforms, JenFriel. On Instagram, I am at Talk Nerdy to Me Lover, and you can check out my website, talknerdytomelover.com.
Oh, thanks, Jen. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
We'll be right back.
The One Tough Mother podcast. Real talk with amazing women who have worked their way to the top and want to share their real life lessons with you.
And we're back. Wow, what an interview, right, dude? So what's going on with headaches and headlines?
It's funny. This headline's funny because I was just talking about this. I stress, you stress, we all stress. And then someone has asked me about if I've been putting weight on. I said, no, the stress has been eating the weight away. So I keep the weight down. If you're feeling a wee bit stressed, you're not alone. 80% of Americans say they are stressed. While most of us are aware that stress and its impact on our own health, we may be less aware of the negative impact our stress has on others. Like a yawn, stress can be contagious. To stop your stress from impacting people around you, the Harvard Business Review advises zoning in on the root cause of stressors, creating recovery periods, and trying to adjust your reaction to stress. What are some things you recommend for mitigating stress? Oh, I know what you're going to say, Karen.
Wine.
This is why people drink.
No, come on. I drink one glass of wine a night. You're right, though. My biggest stress relief is definitely working out.
Oh, there you go. That's a good one. Releases the endorphins. It's a science, actually. It's science.
Yeah, it's first of all, I tell everybody I know that muscle is the fountain of youth. Because if you have a lot of muscle on you, or if not a lot, but if you have good muscle tone, people are always like, wow, how old are you? Wow, you're strong. So, yeah. So that's what I do for stress is work out.
Oh, I usually curse at people on the highway.
Yeah, I know that.
That helps me. Yeah, working out's good. Meditation, yoga, breathe, take some deep breaths. Series of deep breathing actually helps you calm down. Don't have any kids. That's definitely helpful.
Right. It's funny. I ran into a guy the other day. We were sitting next to each other, waiting for something. And he said he's playing Candy Crush on his phone. And he's like, I was so stressed out before I started doing this.
Wow. I play it too. It doesn't really help.
No, I don't really play it that often, but if I have played it, but I don't play it super often.
Okay. I
So
like
everybody
watching,
has like their own formula to de-stress.
I like watching Netflix on the train.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Yeah. All right. So, people just, try to think of creative, non-abusive ways, like stay away from the drugs and alcohol.
Exactly.
It's only going to make it worse. You know what I'm saying?
You're right.
Okay, let's move on. I'm so stressed. I gotta move on. Picking your job over your children. I totally do. I totally go to work every day instead of sitting here with my kids. In 46% of U.S. households with a mother and father, both parents are employed full-time. Yet, according to Pew Research, roughly 77% of adults in the U.S. say women face a lot of pressure to be an involved parent, while only 56 say the same about men. A New York Times columnist who is a lawyer and a law professor addressed how she has often picked her job over her children and has various milestones in their lives, while her children giving her life profound meaning, her job does too. Ew. That's what I can say about that.
Yeah, me too. Ew.
Yeah. Don't compare your children to your job.
Your job is a job.
It's what
Your
you do.
children
It's
are your
not who
life.
you are.
Right.
That annoys me. I want to know, who is this? How come we don't have the name?
All right. I didn't get the name.
All right. I want everyone to stop reading the New York Times. Don't download the Daily and just turn your back on them.
Okay. Good job, Seth. We'll never go there, I guess.
Thank you. I'm just kidding. Do whatever you want. I'm not here to tell you what to do, no matter how stupid it might be. Okay. Do you want to put your feet up? Think twice. Oh, boy. Here we go. A new study. There's always a new study, isn't there, Karen?
Always a study to tell you something that was right was wrong and wrong was right.
Suggests employees should be more concerned about lounging during their free time than sitting at work. Researchers found that participants who sat watching 4 or more hours of television per day had a 50% higher risk of heart issues and death. But after adjusting for health and lifestyle factors, the researchers found that often or always sitting at work was not associated with a heightened risk of either. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Next.
How could you say yes and then no? Like, what changed? Stop it.
I know.
No more Mad? Yes, me worry. After 67 years, Mad Magazine will no longer publish new content, its owner DC has announced. The iconic humor magazine, which features the freckled face of Alfred E. Newman and his slogan, "What, me worry?" will still be available in comic shops and to mail subscribers, but starting in the fall, it will only reprint previously published material. A decline in newsstand sales led to the decision, reports the Wall Street Journal, citing people familiar with the matter. I didn't even know Mad Magazine was still around.
You know what? That's sad. I mean, I don't actively look for Mad Magazine, but it was a very cool gig back then.
Nah. You know what? Just get with the times. If you didn't go digital, then you gotta go home. Okay?
Yep. Go digital or go home.
They should have been doing a series of podcasts. Maybe they do. I don't know. Okay. Is lunch hurting your career? Okay. Eating at your desk may hurt office morale, prompting some employers to rethink the rules around lunchtime etiquette. The BBC asked LinkedIn members to share their thoughts on desktop dining, with respondents pointing to pungent foods such as fish as sources of frequent irritation. Workers who skip lunch breaks also tend to be more stressed and less productive, according to Christopher Wanjak in his book about workplace eating habits. He wrote a whole book about it?
Oh my gosh.
What?
Seth, I can't even write a page about that, but a whole book.
Currently, about a quarter of workers eat lunch at their desk. I am one of them. I eat lunch at my desk. I get a salad. I'm not bothering anybody. But this is ridiculous. You have to point out that people who skip lunch breaks tend to be more stressed and less productive. We need to eat. That's what keeps us alive and keeps everything going. And you get cranky and irritable when you're hungry. Have a Snickers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and I'm at
over.
my desk, and I never get cranky or irritable, but I get hungry.
That's ridiculous. I feel less smart from reading that. Okay. Thanks for putting that in. Do's and don'ts of thank you notes. Oh my God. Karen, it was a slow week, huh? Because these stories are killing me. I read these headlines, I want to shoot myself in the eyeball.
You need to learn these things.
Oh my God. Yeah. Thank you. Next. Okay. A thank you note could be the difference between landing or losing a job. Yet many job seekers may forego sending one as they fear it may botch a relatively good interview or positive interaction with a potential employer. But if you decide to write one, should it be written or sent digitally? What should you say? A handwritten note remains the best option, says Jenny Blake, a career and business strategist, supposedly. It should be to the point, come from the heart, and be relevant to the conversation. How about this? How about you be qualified for the job better than anyone else, then you get it?
Yeah.
How about
You know
that?
what, honestly? And do they send you a thank you note for showing up and wasting your time to come there?
No.
Exactly.
All right. Let's talk about the beauty market, one of my favorite subjects.
This blew my mind. This is just so superficial. Get it? Go ahead.
The beauty industry is now valued at $532 billion with a B, with the market boom likely due to company strategies and leveraging social media influencers for product promotions and the rise of direct-to-consumer brands, according to Business Insider, quoting a report in Edited. Customers are discovering new cosmetic brands on several platforms online, and the demand for sustainable and inclusive products are attracting diverse demographics while shifting the industry away from established cosmetics companies. Wow, I didn't really think about that, but the influencers definitely are driving this market.
You know what? You've got to think about the fact that the beauty industry, billions, and billions. Like, that's like pets. Like, pets makes billions. Where's our mindset that there's children in this country that are going hungry and the beauty industry is billions?
Well, you don't know. Maybe some of these companies are helping out. I don't know.
I hope so.
Well, what are you going to do? This is our country. We're a bunch of consumers.
That's for
Okay.
damn sure.
All right. Now I'm going to cry. Why do you have to bring up the kids, Karen?
Sorry, dude. Sorry, I forgot.
All right. Juul CEO to parents. I'm sorry. Kevin Burns, the CEO of Juul Labs, that's Juul, which makes America's best-selling e-cigarette, has a message for parents. I'm sorry. Federal data shows that nearly 21% of high school students vaped last year, prompting the FDA to declare teen vaping an epidemic. CNBC interviewed Burns and said he has empathy for parents of kids who smoke Juul products. It's not intended for them. Yeah, sure. Juul has attempted to dissuade teen use of its products by shutting down its social media accounts and nixing fruity flavors, but that hasn't stopped criticism. Stop lying to us.
Yeah.
That was your target all along.
You made it funky, fun, and cool for kids.
I love it too, I gotta say. It's awesome.
Wait, you don't use an e-cigarette?
Well, shh, don't tell my family. They don't listen to the show. It's okay.
Stop, you don't. You're healthy.
Yeah, no, I don't do e-cigarettes. And if one of my kids does, I'm gonna take care of it old school.
Yeah, I bet you are.
A smack. Okay. Smack. Okay. Oh, you do your vape? Oh no, you're not vaping anymore because your mouth's gonna be too swollen to vape. After a backhand. Okay. No, don't get excited, all you crazies out there, just playing around. All right.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. It's late. What do you want to say?
We're going to get letters on this one.
Okay. Just, yeah. Send them to my old address. Okay. The coffee shop effect is real, people. It's real. I don't know what that means. Working with just a bit of noise in the background, whether it's the hum of the air conditioner or music pumping through your headphones, can improve our perception and our mood, according to research from Edith Cowan University's Otto van der Gron. Such beneficial noise, referred to as stochastic resonance, may rouse our brains to consider issues and information from different perspectives. The key, though, is to find our very own Goldilocks level of noise. Not so much that it's distracting, but not so little that it's easy to miss. I don't know what to say to that.
Okay, did you study or do you catch things better when there's music or something on?
Well, when I'm vaping, everything sounds better.
Oh, stop.
Yeah.
You do not vape. You know, I'm mad that he's like covering his butt and he wrote in a letter of apology to parents, I'm sorry. Stop.
He said, P.S. kids, 50% off next week. Woo!
You're a jerk. You're a jerk. Well, thank you for the headlines and headaches. None of them were fun or interesting, except for maybe one. Anyway, thank you, Jen Friel. You're amazing. Your authentic, honest interview was just amazing. I didn't even get the chance. I completely and totally forgot to ask her a couple. I wanted to find out about her dancing on stage with Prince and about her crashing the 2010 Grammys, but I didn't get to ask her about either. Next time maybe, because she's a really great interview, and I'm hoping to have her on again. She's a fabulous person. And anyway, in the meantime, I want to say today's Mother Says is, you're being presented with two choices: evolve or repeat. There you go, Seth. You've been evolving, dude. Things have been good for you. You're moving forward. You're going with it. So
I'm walking straight up. Yeah.
You're walking straight up. Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. And next week we have another amazing interview. Take care.